Hi, how are you? Welcome. I'm Juliana Santiago, a teacher and etiquette specialist, co-founder of the Institute of Etiquette and Protocol, and today we're going to talk a little more about digital etiquette. We know that behavior, etiquette rules, and good manners are very much applied in our daily lives when we meet other people. So when we meet someone on the street, go to a party, or have a relationship with someone, promoting etiquette, promoting good manners is about encouraging positive attitudes towards other people. But nowadays, we also have another tool that brings us closer to people, which is the internet. And that's why over time it became necessary to improve a little more. In the application of digital etiquette, what would be the good standards of behavior for using the internet? So we have etiquette and better ways of behaving. For using the phone, for using WhatsApp, for using social media, email, and so on. I don't know if in the future we'll have other social networks, but regardless of any new network that comes up, there will be better standards of behavior to follow. So in this video, I decided to list 10 things that I see people do every day, especially because they spend so much time on the internet. Our etiquette school is an online school, and my contact with you definitely happens a lot through your phone screen, your computer screen, or your television screen. I noticed people make many mistakes, so I selected the main ones for us to discuss in this video. The first is arguing in the comments, being very aggressive with someone, whether in the comments or even in a post. Many times people, because they think they're just there with a cell phone, right? Because they're here with their phone or even in front of a computer screen. This makes it so that they're not actually present there. So people get the feeling that the cell phone can accept more comments and observations that you often wouldn't even say in public. Many times we see comments like, "Oh, your hair looks terrible. Wow, you're so ugly. Wow, your eyebrows look weird." Comments on social media about influencers, actors, or even people we follow. And these are things that most of the time we wouldn't say out loud on the street, right? We wouldn't say that openly. Like, would you say that to someone passing by on the street? "You're really ugly," no, right? So people use their phone screens as if it's a way to express a bit of the hate they have inside their hearts. And saying things that certainly they wouldn't say if they were face to face with someone. So whenever you're having a conversation, it's important to think, would I share my thoughts this way? Would I say this to this person if I met them on the street? So it's important for us to have this filter. In fact, I even brought an example to show you this issue of expressing thoughts and statements that many times you wouldn't say if you were right there in front of someone. This comment that's showing up here on the screen was from a follower who replied to another follower, right? Someone commented saying that she had learned an older etiquette rule and that today she realized that this rule had already changed, that it was a bit outdated, and that's normal because standards of behavior change a lot. So many etiquette rules that used to make sense nowadays often don't anymore. And then instead of creating a pleasant environment for us to talk about this change in the rule, this person made an extremely aggressive and offensive comment. It wasn't even directed at me, it was from one follower to another follower. And she used several words, including even swear words, words that are not appropriate for general vocabulary use. And honestly, I don't know if she would talk like that to someone she just met, Because one follower commented and the other follower doesn't know her. Would she comment like that? Would she talk like that to someone she just met at a party? Would she say it like that? Especially when she uses all caps here, right? The use of all caps. Every time you write in capital letters, it gives the reader the impression that you're shouting. So would this person really speak like that? I'm not going to read the comment here, but it's showing up on the screen and I'm sure you've already read it. But be careful with the way you write, the words you use, and how you express your thoughts. Especially with people you don't even know, and even less so if you don't have any kind of relationship with them. Because for sure, if you were face to face with that person, if you were introduced to them at that moment, you wouldn't have that reaction. Another point is also liking toxic, negative, or prejudiced posts. Be very careful with what you like and approve of on social media, especially when we're talking about Instagram and Facebook. Nowadays, we see a lot of information, news, and points of view being shared. Be very careful with what you like, because in a way, when you like something, it means you're approving of that thought, that post, you're validating it. And some posts can be extremely negative or prejudiced, which is not good for you to expose in relation to your personal image. Many times you might like something that, for example, if someone from your work sees it, if someone notices that you like that, it could create an image and a perception of you as a person that you might not even want to be, right? Sometimes, for example, there's a comment there speaking badly about homosexual people and you approve of it. Do you think that's a good thing? What if, a homosexual colleague of yours sees that and thinks that's how you feel? So be very careful with what you like, okay? If you like something by mistake, go and remove your like. Because when we like something, it means we approve of what's written there. Be very careful about exposing people in inappropriate ways. So be very careful when posting videos or, for example, stories with people who might be a little tipsy with you. At parties, people relax more after a few drinks. And you start posting things that expose the person in an inappropriate or unwanted way for them. Sometimes the person is there sleeping in the corner of the party and you start filming, posting that. That's not cool. Not even filming just to have it on your phone. Is that interesting, right? Because that can make the person feel insecure. Why did Juliana film me sleeping or film me in that situation? Is she going to use that video against me? So it's not even cool for you to film it just to have a record, okay? Because it can make the person feel a little insecure about your actions and posting delicate, inappropriate situations where the person might go through something embarrassing, like I mentioned before, especially when it comes to drinking. Or even something they might do in the moment. Just be very careful. This can make the person feel insecure around you. And in fact, researchers and psychologists say that one of the things human beings like to evaluate when they're around someone is the level of security that person provides for them. So people don't like to be around people who make them feel insecure. And still talking about inappropriate posts, more than just thinking about exposing others, be very careful not to expose yourself as well. Be careful with the kind of photos you post. For example, if you want to build a more professional image using your social media, posting a lot of photos in a bikini, for example, might not build the image you want. So be very careful with what you want to promote through your social media. Because even though we might think that our social media, even our personal network is private, it is always building images for other people. And many times opportunities can even come from friends. Sometimes you're looking for a job and a friend sees it and remembers you. And then if you build an image that isn't connected to what you want for your life and your career, that can harm you. Be very, very careful with that. That's why whenever you're going to post a picture, pay attention to how you look. Is it really a good idea, for example, to post a picture of yourself smoking or using drugs? What kind of impression is that going to give other people? If you're exposing too much of your body, it's important to think about the consequences of that and not be so impulsive. By the way, have you ever done any of these things online, or have you ever been in a delicate situation like that? Has anyone ever posted something inappropriate about you, something you did and you felt extremely offended? Using social media, not just Instagram, but sometimes even exposing things on WhatsApp. Has your group of friends ever gone through a situation like this? Comment below, I want to know. Another point we also need to discuss about digital etiquette is the issue of the excess of information we find on the internet. And the false information we see out there nowadays. With the amount of information we have, first, we need to check if a piece of news or something new we saw is actually true. And the other day it happened to me. I saw an unusual news story about a mother and daughter living in a snack bar in Rio de Janeiro. They didn't have much money to pay the rent that was charged in that area, and they stayed there inside the snack bar with their suitcases. So, instead of going to another area and looking for another place to live, they decided to stay in a specific neighborhood living inside a snack bar during the day. Guys, I found this so unusual that even before telling my husband, I said, no, I need to research if this is true. And in fact, it was. So there are things, even new things, that we see out there. It's important for us to check if that information is true. I saw this on TikTok and I thought it was just completely unusual. I'm going to look it up because we see so much distorted, wrong information that people make up many times. There are people who make things up just to go viral here on the internet. You know, they say things that aren't true. For example, I've seen videos of girls who are 20 years old saying they're 50 just to get views. So we have to be very careful with the things we see out there, validate our information, even if they're small things. And when it comes to big, important news that happens in the world and in our country, it's essential that we do a little more research before sharing false information. Another point also, speaking of digital etiquette, we need to pay attention to the time when we send messages, audio messages to people. In general, according to etiquette, we need to pay attention to the use of phones and communication, right? During business hours, for example, it would be from 9 a.m. to around 7 p.m. We can establish this time frame for better communication between people, especially when you are not close to them. It's not a good idea to send messages too early or too late because sometimes the person leaves their phone on, they might get notifications, and they could be sleeping or resting. So if you are closer to the person and know more about their routine, that's fine. But if that's not your business and you don't know that person very well, it's a good idea to pay attention to the timing when you share information. By the way, if you're enjoying the videos here on the Etiquette and Protocol channel, don't forget to subscribe, like this video. It really helps the channel. And follow me on Instagram as well, Etiquette or Protocolo. Are you already following me? Go ahead and follow me. I'll be so happy to have you there as well. Another point we need to pay attention to is the use of digital etiquette. It's about people who use social media, especially Instagram stories, Instagram posts, and Facebook to send direct messages. You know that person who keeps sharing quotes and you end up thinking that message is for you? Like, for example, friend? What friend? The one who always wishes me happy birthday? Then you realize you forgot to wish your friend a happy birthday, and then you see her posting that and you think it's about you. Don't be the person who keeps posting direct messages on social media. Remember that social media is an extension of you. It has your name, your photo, and you need to behave the same way you would if you were actually present with other people there. So don't forget that. It's essential for you to pay attention to how you behave, and indirect messages, they're not a good idea. Now, talking a little about email, it's important for you to pay attention to how you send your emails. I receive emails from my students every day because the support for questions and course content works through email in my courses, so I get a lot of emails from students. And every day I receive emails that are set up incorrectly, people who forget to put a subject in the email, to sign the email. So it's important for you to know a bit more about the standards for sending an email, to be careful when sending an email message. In fact, in our training course, Etiquette and Good Manners, in case you haven't participated yet, there's a whole module just about digital etiquette. It's a complete module on this topic. And there we talk about email, how you should send it, what protocols you should follow, as well as other social networks too, like Instagram, phone etiquette, and several other standards related to electronic communication. The best part is the etiquette and manners training. It doesn't just focus on digital or online behavior, but also on building your overall good manners, like at parties, events, and receptions. How are you going to project good body language? How are you going to build a positive personal image, and much more? If you haven't joined our training yet, you can use the coupon YouTube when you buy your course and you'll get an exclusive first-time purchase discount. I'll be waiting for you there, okay? You have to be a part of it. Still. Speaking of digital etiquette, one thing you should avoid is arguing in WhatsApp groups. Guys, be very careful when sending messages in WhatsApp groups. If you want to share your opinion, talk about something that happened, or discuss something delicate that someone did. Is chatting on WhatsApp really the best way to connect with someone? Wouldn't it be better to call the person or wait until you can meet them in person? Isn't that more interesting? There are some topics that shouldn't be brought up or discussed there through digital means. A phone call or even meeting the person in person is much more valuable. Be very careful because WhatsApp, It has already ruined many relationships, and I don't want that for you. And speaking of WhatsApp, we can't forget voice messages, right? Be very careful when you send a WhatsApp voice message. Always pay attention to the length and duration of your audio. And never send a voice message without asking the person first. You can send them a voice message, so whenever you want to send a voice message, you ask, "Can I send you a voice message? Would you mind talking by voice message?" I know that voice messages are very practical, and I personally love them, but there are many people who don't like communicating through voice messages. My husband is one of them, and I try to respect him when I can. And then you might ask, Ju, but what about when I talk to someone in person? How should I talk to someone? How should I organize my communication? Well, I've already made a video here talking about conversations, mistakes people make, and I'll leave it here on the side for you to watch. Right after that, I'll stop here and see you later.